Hey everyone, welcome to AI Deep Hallucination. This episode is in response to a viewer who asked us how to build a domain agent benchmark. Great timing, because in February, OpenAI itself retired SWE-bench Verified, the SAT for code agents, the most popular benchmark out there.
Wait, retired? Why?
They audited over 100 hard problems and more than half had broken problem statements or broken grading. This is different from our episode on RAG evaluation. RAG is one shot. Agents are multi-step, stateful. The result of step 1 changes the environment for step 2, and you need them to run reliably many times.
So what did OpenAI find when they audited that benchmark?
3 problem types add up to nearly 60%. About 35% narrow tests that lock in implementation details, valid solutions get marked wrong. Almost 19% tests that demand functionality the problem statement never specified. The rest is miscellaneous junk.
Hold on, that's just the problems being broken. Anything worse?
Worse is contamination. With purpose-built elicitation prompts, the top 3 model families could reproduce the verbatim gold patches. They'd seen the answers.
So now what? Where's the methodological anchor?
Last July, the University of Illinois published the ABC framework must memorize. 2 core definitions. Outcome validity. Can the evaluation function actually judge success? Is the ruler accurate? Task validity. Solvable if and only if the agent possesses the target capability. Is the question well posed?
Give an example? What does outcome validity failure actually look like?
Anthropic, the Claude folks, has the textbook reverse example. Opus initially scored 42 on core bench. Researcher dug through the logs and found rigid grading flagged 96.12 as not equal to 96.12 with extra trailing decimals, ambiguous task specs, stochastic tasks that wouldn't reproduce, and the agent scaffold, the tool call layer needed loosening. After fixes, the score jumped to 95. That 53-point swing isn't the model getting smarter, that's auditing the ruler.
So if I want to build my own, what's step 1?
6 steps. Step 1, task source. Pull from production logs, not from imagination. The recommended starting point is 20 to 50 real failure cases, not thousands. Quality gate. 2 domain experts independently judge pass-fail, must agree.
How do I pick the grading method? Yes or no, code, subjective, same playbook for all 3?
Decision tree. If you can judge from final environment state, use state comparison. Code, run unit tests. Subjective, rubric, that's a structured grading scheme plus a grader model, basically another LLM acting as the examiner plus human spot checks. Anthropic's counterintuitive recommendation, grade outcome, not path.
But some tasks aren't yes or no. Was a customer service answer good? Was a legal opinion complete? How do you decide those reached the goal?
That's the meta layer. A benchmark score isn't a measurement of capability, it's the output of design choices. But bluntly, the score is like the SAT. Same student, examiner A's questions get them 90, examiner B's questions get them 60. OpenAI itself says don't take absolute scores too seriously. Anthropic says quality of research-style tasks must be judged relative to the task. There's no objective standard.
How do you score partial credit? A multi-step task where 70% gets done, give it 0, 70%, or 100?
3 companies, 3 formulas, not even the same mathematical object. Anthropic gives no formula, just hands out partial credit per component. Harvey, the legal AI shop, does positive points minus negative points divided by total positives. HealthBench, OpenAI's medical benchmark, does weighted hits divided by max weights. Weights from -10 to +10 set by doctors.
What about the pass threshold? 70% counts as a pass. Where does that number come from?
3 legitimate sources, none of them mathematical. First, stakeholder negotiation. Medical AI starts experientially at AUC 0.9, sensitivity and specificity 0.8. AUC is like an overall score for an airport scanner, 0.5 is random guessing, 1 is perfect. Sensitivity is whether you catch sick patients. Specificity is whether you wrongly flag healthy ones.
AUC 0.9 sounds strict. What about the other 2 sources?
Second, empirical floor. Harvey's data, lawyers reject responses below 60% accuracy on rubric criteria. Third, borrow an existing checkpoint. Cognition, the team behind Devon. Devon was billed as the first AI software engineer, uses pull request merge rate as success, code that human engineers approve and merge counts as a win.
But if you measure and then tweak, isn't that just overfitting? You touched on this in the Kirparthi auto research episode. Looking at the validation set repeatedly is going to leak.
Auditing the ruler is legitimate. Editing the ruler is cheating. When you see a failure, ask first, was the problem broken or was the agent? If the problem genuinely has a bug, you fix the problem. If the problem is fine and the agent just failed, you can only modify the agent. Princeton audited 17 agent benchmarks, 7 had no held-out set whatsoever. That's the root cause of widespread overfitting.
What are the must-step on landmines? agents gaming the metric, or greater models making bad calls?
Three big ones. First, gaming the score. METR, a nonprofit that tests AI risks, found empirically that telling the model don't cheat explicitly still leaves it cheating about 80% of the time. Don't reward hack brings it down to 70%.
Telling it explicitly don't cheat and it still does it 80% of the time? This model has nerve. What about the other two landmines?
Second, greater model bias. Position bias, length bias, same family bias, same trio we covered in the RAG evaluation episode. Third, runaway cost. Same task, $171 gets you 42%, $1,577 gets you 40%. 10 times the spend, 2-point swing.
Generic benchmarks versus domain benchmarks, different failure modes, right? Which is harder to build?
Two completely different failure modes. Generic benchmarks. The danger is the model recognizing it's being evaluated. Anthropic caught Opus last month spending 40+ million tokens writing code to crack the encrypted answer key.
Wait, the model cracked the answer key itself? That's literally cheating on the exam.
Pretty much, domain benchmarks have the opposite difficulty. You can't recruit the experts. HealthBench's advanced version filtered 15,079 candidates down to 525. That's a 3.5% acceptance rate.
How do you handle edge cases? Refusal-type answers can't be unit tested.
Edge cases must be split into three categories. First, the should trigger boundary. Second, malicious red team attacks. Third, rare but high-stakes long-tail. For refusals, use OpenAI's rubric, 1 to 7 scale, sample 5 times per prompt, take the median. 1 to 5 counts as non-compliant, 6 to 7 counts as compliant.
Can you sum up the whole framework in one sentence?
5 layers in the interview answer. ABC's 2 definitions to check validity. 6 steps to build one. Pick one of 3 partial credit formulas. Pick one of 3 pass threshold sources. 3 categories for edge cases. Core takeaway, a benchmark score isn't a capability measurement, it's the output of design choices. Auditing the ruler is legitimate, editing the ruler is cheating. If you have an interview question you want us to break down, drop it in the comments. If this helped, hit subscribe and we'll see you next time.